Hey guys, hopefully you're enjoying these different videos that I'm providing for you guys. So today, moving on, we'll be going over parallelograms and really 2D shapes in general. So we've probably all seen and have talked about many of these different shapes, but we're going to put some rules around each one. So we've all know what a square is, what a rectangle is, we may not know this one as well. What a rhombus is. We know triangle, circle, and one that we might be learning today is a trapezoid. So within these, each one has a different rule or a different attribute that it must have in order to be considered one of those things. So we're going to be talking about parallelograms. Now when you see the word parallelograms, you need to be thinking first the word parallel, because the rule of all of these shapes is that all of them need to have two sets of parallel lines, two pairs of parallel lines. So you notice in our parallelogram, we have where it says two pairs of parallel lines. That just means that this line right here and this line are parallel. They would go on forever and never touch, along with this line and this line. Now, all of these shapes that we'll be talking about today, besides our triangle and our circle right here, are quadrilaterals, meaning quad, like a forerunner or a quad runner is a four-wheeler. Ril and laterals is sides. So all of them will have four sides. So our parallelogram just has to have two pairs of parallel sides. So looking at our shapes, a square is a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel lines. Our rectangle is also. Our parallelogram or rhombus is as well. Triangle and circle are not, but a trapezoid, that gets tricky. So in this case, a trapezoid is not, and here is why. If we look at these down below, these lines would go on forever without touching, so those are parallel. That's one set though. On these ones, these two lines would go on and eventually would end up meeting somewhere probably around there. So they would intersect, making it not a parallelogram. And on this one, similar concept. These two lines would end up intersecting, making it not a parallelogram. But it is still a quadrilateral. It still has just four sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, really, within our parallelogram, we have three big shapes that we'll continue to see. A rectangle, or the rectangle club, the rhombus club, and the square club. Now, the square is made up on the combination of the attributes of a rhombus and the attributes of a rectangle. So let's look at those. A rectangle, in order to be considered a rectangle, just has to have four right angles. Now, hopefully you're saying to yourself, but Mr. O'Connor, a square also has four right angles, and that is because a square can also be considered a rectangle. So when we're looking at a square, or when we're looking at a right angle just means that it has 90 degrees. You may hear when you think of a 360, that's 360 degrees. That means if you're facing this direction, you're going to turn all the way around. That would be 360 degrees. Well, only 90 degrees would go to there, and a 180 would go to where you're facing the complete opposite direction. So a 90-degree angle would look something like this, and you'll generally see that little box right there indicating that it is a right angle. So a rectangle, in order to be considered a rectangle, has to have four right angles. Now looking at this, a square is considered a rectangle. So a square could also be called a rectangle. It's another name for it. A rectangle can obviously be called a rectangle, but a rhombus cannot. And here's why. Because the attributes of a rhombus are 4 equal sides. So that means that all the sides have to be equal. A lot of times you will see lines similar to that on the shape. So in this situation, all of these sides, I know it's a rough sketch, are measured and they could be equal. Even though they may be at an angle, they're still equal. Very similar to our parallelogram. All of these sides could be considered equal if I would have taken out a ruler and measured them all individually, completely. Then a square has to have both of those attributes in order to be considered a square. So it has to have 4 right angles and 4 equal sides. If it doesn't, it is not a square. So this isn't going to be a perfect drawing, but it'll be close enough. In this situation, our shape could look like this. And those boxes indicate that all 4 of those are right angles, and then those lines indicate that they are all equal sides. And that's what makes a square a square. So in this situation, a square can be considered a rectangle, but notice a rectangle cannot be a square. And it's because these sides are not equal to those sides. And that is our 2D shape lesson for the day.